Over $65 million in sales my special guest has generated for some of the top businesses, creators in the game. I'm so pumped about this. I'm so excited. If you're a creator, a business owner, anybody pretty much who needs to be leveraging YouTube in today's creator economy, this is the ultimate masterclass. You're not going to want to miss this. And by the way, get your questions ready because you can ask them live on the air. Let's get cooking. Welcome, y'all.
What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow. I think I'll chew it.
Welcome, everybody, to the Creator Economy live stream podcast show. I'm your host, Professor Nez, and we're just going to jump right into it. Podcast listeners, replay viewers, welcome. I love y'all, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and we will come back and answer them. I'm so excited, and without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. We have somebody who's probably supposed to have been on the show long ago. Anthony Ambrice is probably one of the top YouTube consultants, strategists. He has gotten play buttons for creators and businesses faster than anybody I know. And he's just a down-to-earth, cool dude. I actually met him at Vid Summit about 5 years ago before the pandemic. He was super, super cool, super, super humble. And he's just got a ton of knowledge. There's not too many people that I know, and I've been in this space for over decades, that has the kind of YouTube knowledge that Anthony has. So without further ado, everybody welcome Anthony to the show. Let's get this cooking right here. Anthony, how are you?
Doing great, man.
Super cool to have you here, brother. And before we get cooking with questions, because I've got a ton of questions, and live viewers, leave your questions in the comments and we will get to them. Hey, Christopher from LinkedIn, great to see you. Make sure you share this out. Let's get as many people and help as many people as possible. So, Anthony, before we get cooking, why YouTube? Talk to us a little bit about, briefly, how did you get into this game? What started it all?
All right, yeah, the origin story.
Yeah.
So this is gonna probably date me a bit. So back in the days of the iPod, which I feel like recently retired, right, from existence.
Yeah.
There was this thing called podcasting that was going on, and so originally I was in the world of podcasting. Like I had my own little podcast, but then I started seeing the sort of like the iteration of video podcasts, which if I say that now, it just sounds weird, but at the same time, it's sort of doing this full circle thing. So back in 2007, 2008, I was getting into like video podcasts because that's the thing that existed at that time. Because the iPod can now show videos. So I started following programming that had like this aspect of like, here's this one-on-one interview like we're doing right now, or like a host sort of sharing news and sharing information. And so that really fascinated me. And I was like, I want to do this. I want to start changing my audio podcast to a video. And so I started running around the streets of Utah or Provo, Utah, just interviewing local bands, friends that were throwing events, promoters, all this stuff that I thought, they were doing something interesting. So I would go to like their live events, film them, interview them on the street, and just get these really fascinating stories. And then I started bringing them over to my house to interview them there. And then that sort of evolved into this idea of like, oh, I could put this on like public television, like public broadcasting. Like that's what I was thinking about at the time. But then like YouTube was around. So I was like, you know what? I'll just create a web series, a documentary style web series, and put it on YouTube and just sort of feature the things that I like and the people that are doing amazing things, whether that's graffiti, artists, DJing, breakdancing, all this type of stuff. Because that's the culture that I was into with hip hop. And so I was like, I'm going to do that. And so I created a show called Urban Media, and I did that for a couple of years, just going out, filming, recording. I started going to other states, California, Arizona, and all that stuff, just to highlight these amazing people and put it on YouTube. And I started this series, and it was tons of fun to do. Now, right as soon as I graduated from college, that's where I started getting like messages from people at companies saying like, "Hey, we see this YouTube channel you created. Could you come work for us and do the same thing?" And I was like, "Sure, that doesn't seem so bad." And so the very first job I got straight out of college was at a little company called Bodyguards, and then that's where my mindset sort of shifted into like, oh, not only can I feature people and share amazing stories and document things, but I can also sell using
Mm.
YouTube. And from there on, like the rest is history. I just sort of like realized like I could create a video, put it on YouTube, and get sales within the hour without running an ad. It was just all organic content. And so, yeah, from there, the rest sort of became history where I started working with different influencers or creators in the space, giving them advice, consulting with them, seeing them grow and become these phenomenal stars, working on some of their projects behind the scenes. And then, yeah, just working at different agencies or different companies in their marketing or video production department because they didn't know where to put me with my different skill sets. Right? They're like, he's a marketer, but he also
Yeah.
does these videos, so he'll run this team or he'll run that team, or he'll just be his own silo. So a lot of time I was just a one man band, and honestly that helped a lot to develop my skills faster and be like really efficient with my time because if you're the only one there that has to do it all, you develop systems really quickly. And so,
It kind of reminds me of, thank you, by the way,
yeah,
Anthony, and everybody listening and watching. If you have a question, leave your question in the comment, type a capital Q in front of your question, and just try to make it as brief as possible. If we need more context, we'll ask you. But Anthony, that reminds me of like what you just said. Whenever people ask me what I do, or any creator, right? It's very simple if you're a doctor or if you're an attorney or if you're a project manager, et cetera, et cetera. But when people say like, "What do you do?" Do I say YouTuber? Do I say content creator? Do I say I run my own consulting agency? Do I say, there's so many live streamer, podcaster. There's so many different hats that we as YouTubers wear, and it still seems like even in 2023, it still seems like this is not like something that's easy to define. Like being a creator who makes money with their content. Content creator almost doesn't even cover it because as a content creator, as you know, you're wearing a billion six hats, right? You're the marketer, you're the operations leader, you're the salesman, you're the distributor, you're the editor, you're the thumbnail designer, right? Um, this is so awesome. So I want to just ask you and just jump right into it because your story is awesome. What do you see that's happening right now with YouTube that we as creators, we as businesses, should be paying attention to most right now, as of this recording, May 21st, 2023? I have a feeling everything that you're going to talk about today is going to resonate. But what's happening right now? What is on your radar that you're like, man, this is the one thing you tell your clients you need to be focusing on this when it comes to YouTube?
yeah. So I would say, like, so YouTube, you got to always remember it is a platform, it is a company. And so, in order for it to continue growing and being successful as a company and as a platform, it has to continuously be innovating and creating something or pushing some new product, right? Now, with that said, like YouTube over the course of its history has had plenty of new products to push towards creators. Like, it's like, hey, do this, do that. Like for instance, like people probably have forgotten about YouTube stories or don't even know that YouTube stories is a thing that exists. And it's a failed product. Like it really is. It's a bad feature. Instagram has stories. Snapchat was the thing that revolutionized stories. They're the ones who like first launched it all. But like Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok has stories. Like all these platforms have stories. YouTube tried to do it. It sort of failed, right?
LinkedIn tried to do it too. That
Oh
failed.
yeah, yeah. I don't even pay attention to the LinkedIn stories. Um, and what's interesting there, because the idea behind stories, and I'm going to sort of emphasize this a little bit because it'll play into the rest of this. But the idea behind stories, the reason why it was revolutionary when it first came out on Snapchat was because the thing that at that time that was really doing well on YouTube was storytelling in the vlog sense, right? Like very
Mm.
organic, raw, like here, let me show you my day, right? And sometimes people sort of make fun of social media in that sense of like nobody cares what you're having for breakfast. But that's not true. Like we're all very curious people and sort of will care what someone is having for breakfast. In fact, we probably follow people who tell us, what their morning routines are and what their day to day is, because we find that fascinating and we're trying to, see a different perspective and be like, oh, how can I incorporate that into my life? And so when a platform like Snapchat put stories out there, it was like, oh, now I don't have to spend all this time documenting my day and then editing it down for a long video that's 10 minutes long to go on YouTube. Now I can just do it on the fly 24/7.
Convenience, right?
There's all this convenience factor. Plus, everyone had, smartphones that made it easy, right? When Instagram did it and Facebook did it, like even more access to a wider general public there, right? So now I bring that up because the big new features with YouTube right now are YouTube Shorts, even though that has been launched for a while, but now I feel like they figured their algorithms. It's still not as amazing as TikTok's algorithm when it comes to short form content, but YouTube is doing a really good job now. And plus, there's people that are actually supplying content for that now, but there's still a demand for it. And then podcasts, like the newest feature is podcast for YouTube. Now I speak about these features because it's like all of a sudden it's like, all right, this is my opportunity now to start the channel and start using all these features. But the truth is, some of these features aren't fully tried and tested yet. They're just sort of out there, and YouTube won't know how to tweak it, won't know how to like adapt it to the creator. The creators don't even know how to fully use it yet either. And so every creator that starts to use those features are just going to be sort of the guinea pigs. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And while there could be these things that will take off, whether it's like YouTube podcasting, the podcasting feature itself, or just starting channels with just YouTube Shorts, like that happens. Like it'll work for some people, but for a majority of people, it might not work, right? But the biggest element to that, or what's going to create that success, isn't so much these features or these new opportunities as it is the tried and true method of telling a solid story.
Yeah.
Right? That's always going to be the test of time. And the example for that is filmmaking and television, right? Those are two old medias that still exist today and still generate billions of dollars and create stars and sell all sorts of product because it's still just good storytelling. And so everyone just needs that. And now when we're talking about storytelling, that still involves educating people. Like when people watch shows like, Ted Lasso or like if we're going a little back in time, Friends or The Office or whatever, right? Like, yes, we're getting entertained, but we're also like learning something about people as they sort of interact with each other. We're like learning empathy. We're learning about like how people react to situations, how they overreact to them, what they find funny, like what's like, what makes us uncomfortable, and all those things, sort of help us as people. Now I feel like I'm getting very philosophical here, but in the end, like all that just sort of helps us, I feel like in a way, like tune out from life a little bit, but also gain something from it, because we all can't experience everyone else's experiences, but we get a little bit of that when we watch, listen, and read good stories. And that's why, books are still a fantastic thing, right? That's one thing that I recently read of, like, if you want people to really develop care and love and empathy, read books, read fiction, right? Read stuff so that way you can see the perspective of other people's lives that you will never experience.
You're speaking my language. Yeah, I used to teach.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Anthony.
And I was going to say, like, and I feel that's why YouTube still is fantastic as a platform, because one thing that I try to help companies, especially when I work with companies and entrepreneurs, like the company objective and the entrepreneur objective is that they want to make money, right? Because if they don't make money, they don't exist. Like it
Yep.
goes away, right? But there is still that great intention of like also they also want to create an impact, right? Sometimes the money and the impact thing, that scale sort of teeters and totters, right?
Oh yeah.
But
It's
then
not an easy life.
but that's where the amazing factor of YouTube comes into play, because you can still right now today create a piece of content, put it on YouTube, have someone that's looking for that content find it in the search, watch it, engage with it, and then come away from it learning something or being entertained by it. And know, and there isn't a lot of other platforms that allow you to do that without someone sort of sharing it to someone
Yeah.
else.
We got a great
Right.
question from
It's
Gracie,
awesome.
but before I get to
Yeah.
that, Anthony's a good name. Good to see you, AL. AL's in the house. Good to see you. I wanted to ask you, speaking of money and monetization,
Yeah.
so when you have businesses and brands reach out to you and they're like, look, Anthony, I don't care about fame, I don't care about followers, I don't care about likes, I want conversions, which
Mm.
I consult clients as well, and that their aim, their objective, especially if you want to work with a brand or be sponsored, they literally only care about conversions. That's all they care about. And like you said, it's fantastic to be philosophical and impact. That's beautiful. And I love that. Everybody wants that. But at the end of the day, we don't exist without money. So if a brand or business comes to you, let's say, for example, let's try to be tactical here,
Yeah.
and says, hey, Anthony, I'm a, I create, let's just say I am a plumbing company and I'm new in the area. There's a lot of competitors, but I see nobody's using or utilizing YouTube. How can you help me get my business out there? How can you help me, increase sales? I've got a family, I've got a mortgage. What would you, as somebody who's generated a lot of business for companies, what would you say to this new plumber who's entered into the arena of their local area? Or maybe he's just started his business or maybe he's struggling, right? What would you tell him are some things that he should be doing first to capitalize on that?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, the tactical thing is really understanding who their customer really is, right? And oftentimes businesses and business owners don't know who their customer is. Even if they are successful, sometimes they forget who that customer is, and they go off and do something weird. Um, so first of all, it's knowing that, right? Knowing who your customer is, who your audience is, who the viewer is going to be, because from there, then you can resonate with them with the instructions you give them, right? Like with the content that you're going to create. And it goes back to that idea of you got to tell a wonderful story that's going to help them resonate with who you are as a person. And that's the thing that I have to teach people, business owners, entrepreneurs, and companies, is that you guys can't just be this entity that like people can't relate to. You have to bring the human element to it. So like with a company, it's like I need a face for this company that represents the company. So going back to when I worked with bodyguards, like I became the face of bodyguards for a couple months as I was doing the stuff there, and that's what helped close the deals, because as AT&T saw the videos, they're like that guy that you guys have doing the videos is awesome. Like he's genuine. Like I feel a connection to him. Let's have your products in our stores. That literally created the millions of dollars of revenue that came into
Wow.
that company, right? Because it's like, here's a person that I can relate to. He is selling and talking about screen protectors and cases. Like, it's like, okay, but like, besides the fact that everyone needs that, they also needed to know that there was a human behind it, right? And so going back to like the plumber needs to be on camera, or someone at that company needs to be on camera that can feel comfortable on camera, or even if they're awkward on camera, that's still fantastic, because then you get to sort of see this person evolve over time and get better. Because when I look at my old videos, they're really bad. But I mean,
Oh man, me too. Me too.
and then that person, what they're going to do, right away, it's always going
It's
to
never as
be.
bad as you think it is, though.
That's true.
I think we're our worst critic.
But the first thing that plumber's going to do is be like, okay, I'm going to be in front of this camera. I'm going to get someone to be in front of this camera. And then they're going to literally provide as much help as possible to someone that would hire them, right? So they're going to give a lot of free things away that shows them how to fix their toilet or how to unclog it or like what plunger to buy, like those types of things, right away, or what issues happen in the area that they need to be aware of, right? Like, I mean, a plumber should know their local area to know, like, oh, maybe there's going to be some flood to watch out for, or there's going to be sewage is going to back up because I just saw the city working on some stuff. Like, they would have all that information to give. And what happens is that, like, when someone's trying to figure something out, they're quickly going to go to YouTube or Google and be like, all right, my toilet got clogged. How do I unclog it? What do I do? And that's where that video will pop up. They'll see who this person is, and this person helped them, gave them free information. It's like, okay, now I know if there's a problem with my plumbing, like pipe burst, something crazy that I can't handle in a few minutes, like this is the person that I want to come in here because I
Right.
trust them because they already gave me free information that worked and helped me out. And I didn't have to go pay $40 or $50 for them to come out and do that. Right. And so
It
that,
kind of reminds me of that Dad, How Do I channel, if you
oh
know
yeah,
who I'm
it
talking
was a
about. Like
fantastic
how,
channel. Yeah.
yeah, like he got like 1 million subscribers in less than like a month or something.
Yeah.
And he started with his story where he'd never had a dad. What an amazing idea for a YouTube channel, but he never had a dad who taught him. I think I can't remember what the story is. If anybody wants to correct me, please, but it's something like he never had a dad to teach him things. And so he wanted to be that sort of dad that teaches, his kids, how do I drive a car? How do I drive stick? How do I change a spark plug, or how do I fix the toilet, et cetera, et cetera. And the channel just blew up. He was on NBC, like I think 2 months after his channel went live and he launched it. And it just kind of speaks to what you're talking about, Anthony, which is tell your story, humanize your brand. I love this comment from Gracie on LinkedIn. Gracie says, humanize your brand, right? People do business with people, not businesses or buildings.
Yeah.
It's not about your billboard or your fancy product. Who's behind the billboard? Who's behind the product? So I absolutely love this. What do you think? This just popped in my head, and I want to get to Gracie's question too. What do you think of these people who keep touting these faceless channels? And I get ads like this all the time, Anthony. And they're like, "Hey, you can make passive income. I make $10,000 a month, and it's all automated. And all you need to do, you don't need to create videos. What do you think of these people who are sort of gaming the system? Does that actually work, or is that just bubkus?
It works and it doesn't. Meaning that, like, to do a faceless channel, you're probably going to put the same amount of work and effort into it as you would a channel where you're in it, right?
It's never easy, right?
Yeah. Now I will say, here's the funny thing. I ran a few case studies with faceless channels where I worked with someone to create one, and right away we realized that, like, that face, that part was like, having that humanized factor of, like, here's this person, like that quickly, like, deteriorated the channel in the sense that we didn't have that, right? So no one could attach themselves to the channel in some way, because YouTube, again, is a social media platform. Most people just see it as a broadcasting platform, but no, that's why it's YouTube. It's like you broadcast yourself. And so, like, that channel didn't work well, even though the content was phenomenal. And I feel it would work if someone was a host for it. And in fact, I have seen faceless channels that basically evolve to a face, and sometimes it's not the face. Sometimes it's just the voice that everyone knows and loves.
Yeah.
Examples of that is like Honest Trailers. Honest Trailers is this funny channel that does, like, these voiceover for movie trailers or movies, and it just gives you, like, this very literal breakdown and sort of gives you all these jokes about like the movies, and explains it in a really funny way. But that voice is sort of the face of that channel. And in fact, those who fall in love with the channel and the content go on to go watch the behind the scenes of the voice actor and like how he does it, and they do interviews with him, and they sort of talk about how they write these scripts. So there's a more behind the scenes element of like, oh, these are the people responsible for this show I really enjoy. And like even like the Watch Mojo series, most
Oh
people
yeah.
are familiar with that. That's been around for over a decade now. Most people think of it as a faceless channel, but there is a voice and a face to that channel that appears every now and then. And in fact, it's so interesting because there's this clip of Tom Holland, Spider-Man, right? Like him and his co-star find out that the girl that's interviewing them is the voice of Watch Mojo, and they're fangirling over
No
it.
way.
They're like, we watch this series. It's like you're the girl, you're the voice, and she's like, yeah. And they're like, say the line. And she says the line, and they just all flip out, and they're excited. And so here's like these movie stars getting excited for this YouTube channel that they watched growing up because it had a human element, whether that was that voice or the face that would show up every now and then to sort of say like, this is the person behind this channel, or this is the host
Yeah.
of this channel, right?
That's awesome. And before we get to Gracie's question, so what your example of, the plumber trying to get more leads, trying to get more conversions, that
Yeah.
applies to if you're a realtor, if you're
Oh,
a
yeah.
real estate agent, a service provider, it's selling any products. Maybe you're a restaurateur or you're a local Greek restaurant or anything like that. Would you say that what you just said about the plumber gaining more traction applies to pretty much any business, is kind of humanizing, tell your story, get your face in front of the camera, let people feel you, let people understand you. Is that what I'm kind of hearing you say, Anthony, before we get to Gracie's question?
Yeah, most definitely. Like for instance, the way I was able to humanize like screen protectors um, or cases was to show the use case, right? To show like not only because a product always has certain features or use cases, right? Like this is how you will use the screen protector. It protects your screen. And so like I created a series where we put the screen protector on the phone to sort of put it into challenging situations that sometimes people would face, whether that's working in the garage or working like, or having your phone in the kitchen. But then we took it to an extreme for a wow factor. So the series that was called Bodyguards Versus, and so we took the phone and the screen protector to places to show like, okay, here's how this could be used and how it would still protect your phone and you'll be fine. And you would have to like replace your screen, right? Spend all this money. And so like we're hitting on certain emotional factors of like these devices are expensive. Like there was no payment plan at that time. like it was like you pay for it up front. And it's a couple of $100 to $1,000. And then you buy the screen protector, right? And so like we were hitting on that factor of like people do not want to break their phone because then they
Yeah.
can't use it, right? But then we're sort of showing the wow factor in a lot of those videos were like literally, so like in the garage, like the phone's in the garage, and we use power tools in that garage to like beat the crap out of the phone, like hammer, nails, like a drill, like a sander, all this stuff to then show like, hey, your device is still safe. And then like, we pull the screen protector off and the screen's like still intact, right? And sometimes what people didn't realize, and I wish we would have made this more of a selling point, we were using our own devices. We didn't buy extra devices at the time.
Wow.
Like, I used my own device many times. Like there was one time where I threw it up in the air and hit it with a metal bat. Or
Jeez.
a bat. It didn't break. It bent though. That was sort of funny. Sort of bent it back in place.
Wow.
But
really illustrating the talk about a demo, right?
Yeah, so that demo was very impactful. But the very first video when we did that series was literally on the streets. So I stopped people and said, "Hey, here's some tools for you. Here's like hammer, like razors, like all nails, whatever you want to use. Pick your weapon and go to town on this phone." And so they did that. Like they just beat it, and they saw no scratches, and they're just like, "What the?" They're like, "What? There's not scratching." I was like, "Well, yeah, that's the point." And so that was an amazing sell. but that was sort of the humanizing factor of like we can let people demo it, we can show the extreme factors of it, and then it's like, you know, our hands of like someone's actually doing this.
Yeah.
And so like there's like humanizing things, and then
You're building trust too.
yeah. Like the humanizing factor sometimes could, like, you could humanize your restaurant by like, you know, the hands that prepare the food, by the building, by the setting, the atmosphere, because it's sort of that POV shot, like then puts the viewer in that spot to sort of walk into the restaurant, see it, sit down, see the food presented to them, see the steam coming out of it, all that stuff. It's sort of like providing this sensory of like, oh, I'm experiencing this now. Like now I want to experience it in real life.
Love it.
So that's what's always wonderful about locations or products, right? Products, especially because like you can like say like, you know, here's my wallet, here's all the stuff I put in my wallet. You know, I don't like that it's bulky, or I want it thin, or I want, you know, everything to be held inside of it. Those things people relate to, and that's where that humanizing factor comes into play.
Right. Love it. That's great, Anthony. Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much. Gracie has a question. And by the way, if you're watching this live or even on the replay, podcast listeners, feel free to come back, leave a comment. We also have a questionnaire form in the description of the video. If you want to fill that out, and I'll have Anthony answer that later, please fill that out. Gracie has a question here. She says, Anthony, what are the lessons you learned? This sounds like this could be its own show right here. What are the lessons that you learned from failure on YouTube, or, you know, pretty much anything related to that? Great question, Gracie.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, that's always a great question. And I always feel like it's a little hard to like answer, because at the time when you fail, you're sort of like, what am I supposed to learn from this? Or you just, or if you're like me, you fail and you're just like, okay, well, time to keep moving on. Like, and that's a different type of mindset, right? Like there's some people who will fail and it's like, and I'm done. Like I'm gonna go do something else now. And then
I think really quickly, Anthony, I think how we can relate this to the topic. I know you see this all the time, because I do too. How many creators, if they don't get success on YouTube within a certain time frame, or even an unrealistic time frame, they quit. They end up quitting, and they're like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm not getting any views. I'm not getting any subscribers. You know, have you had to correct that mindset? And, you know, you look at somebody like Mr. Beast, who didn't get any traction on his channel for 7 years. Right. The first 7 years of his channel, he didn't get really anywhere, but it was his commitment, his obsession, his dedication. I think that's a good way to frame the question. Otherwise, because I know that question can go in a million different directions, but framing it towards YouTube success, how do you kind of, how do you sort of, you know, pose that or approach failure when it comes to YouTube? Because I know a lot of your clients probably come to you and hire you through frustration, correct?
Yeah. So I mean, to sort of look at it more on the YouTube side, like to me, like you haven't failed on YouTube if you like, the only time I feel like someone has failed on YouTube is if they literally have quit. Like, and or haven't been able to really pivot when things aren't working, right? Because honestly, every video that you produce, you're going to learn something from that experience of producing that video. Whether it's like, oh, I spent way too much time focusing on my lighting when I should have focused more on my script, or I spent way too much time on the video itself and not enough on the title or the thumbnail. Or I made the video and then I didn't promote it at all. It just sort of stayed there. And I hoped it was going to just take off on its own, right? And so, like, as you evolve on YouTube, as you create and as you get subscribers, engagement, and views, you start to learn from all that feedback that you're getting, right? Whether sometimes that feedback is 0 views, right? You made something, you probably thought it was amazing, and no one saw it. So
I wish I could say I can't relate.
and so there it's like, okay, well, why did no one see it? Was it the
Boy, does that
content?
hurt.
Was it the content just being terrible? Was it my thumbnail sucked? Was it my title sucked? Was it like no SEO? Just no one really care about this topic? There's a lot of that comes into play. So that's really where you start learning from the technical failure of like of zero views or of no growth or no money coming in. It's like, all right, where is it that I need to focus more on, or where do I need to make my shifts or change things? Like, where do I need to go back and research some things some more, while still not stopping from actually producing content and putting stuff out there, right?
You mean to tell me, Anthony, it's not the algorithm's fault?
It's very rarely the algorithm's fault.
How many times have you had creators say that to you? Hey, Anthony, I know my stuff is good. I'm getting tons of hits on TikTok or Facebook, but YouTube's algorithm is against me. How many times does that happen to you, Anthony? And what do you say to them?
Oh man, so many times. And what I say to them is that, I mean, it always depends on what they're trying to do, right? Um, really, it's like the only person they're having to really compete with isn't the algorithm; it's themselves, it's themselves, right? Like it's themselves. Like that's where like YouTube said, hey, you know what, you guys, like we're tired of you guys blaming us. We're going to provide you a leaderboard to show you how your videos are doing as soon as they go out, because that leaderboard that shows up where it shows your top 10 videos that went out and how they ranked amongst themselves really gives you a humbling moment to be like, oh, I made this video and it sucks because it's on spot number 10 and I can't get it, past that right now. So it's like I'm the one doing something wrong. um, and then when you get to that number one spot, you're just like super stoked because all of a sudden you've raised the bar yourself, like because you're competing with yourself. So like it's like, all right, now you beat your last record. Cool. Now go and make some more awesome content and see if you can crush that record and then get to the top again. But yeah, it's
I
interesting.
love this
I would, I
comment.
would,
That's really cool, Anthony. And I love this comment from Angie. Angie's an awesome creator. Big shout out to Chris Stone as well. Dealcasters Live. Gracie's in the house. Big shout out to Jennifer Crocus Cooper. So awesome to see you. She says, hey, Nez, great content as always. Thank you for bringing an amazing guest who wants to help others as well. I think this is, I know Angie's not asking this question, but I'm going to actually use this comment to ask our awesome YouTube expert a question. She says, I'm still grinding 3 years, don't want to quit, but it does mess with your head, the ups and downs. Hey, Anthony,
yeah.
I've been on YouTube for over 8 years. I've got multiple channels. I would be lying if I didn't say there are days I want to just throw a brick at my computer. I'd be lying if I didn't say there were days where I'm like, how in the world is this happening? Like, I know my target audience. I know how YouTube works. My thumbnail, I know it's a thumbnail design that I've implemented many, many times that has gotten a ton of hits. Why is my CTR? Why is my AVD? I shortened my intro. I concentrated on the first 30 seconds. But like this sort of roller coaster, and I think this relates to Gracie's question too. It just is I've said this many times, Anthony, on my show. I've been running businesses since I was 8 years old. There's nothing harder than running a media company. And don't get it twisted. If you're a YouTuber or a content creator, you're not quote unquote just a YouTuber. You're running a media company. And I know Anthony will agree with this. If you want to do this as a business, you definitely need to think of it as you are running your very own Netflix. What do you say to creators and businesses who are like, Anthony, like I know how YouTube works. I guess this is kind of a personal question too.
Yeah.
Like I am like why am I getting 10 out of 10s? I should be getting 1 out of 10s. Like what is happening? This is messing with my head. I've lost sleep over this. I've been depressed many, many times when I know the video is a banger. I know the video is exactly what my audience, my real-time views have shown. This is the kind of video that YouTube wants to push out. And yet I get crickets. How do you navigate that as a business, as a creator? What do you tell them?
Yeah. So, in my career now, it's like I'm hitting 15 years of working with people and of creating content. And out of all the different people I've worked with, like most of them that do come to me eventually, they've been at it for years themselves, right? And some of them have made it to 50,000 subscribers or something, right? From the years of doing it, and some have made it to like 70,000, or even to like 100 or 500, and then some have just made it to 10, right? Like they're still or below 10, and the truth is, by the time they come to me, like they sort of went through their entire cycle of like trial and error, right? And maybe they picked up a few courses here and there, and then maybe and hopefully they picked up a book to try to see like if there's something here that I'm missing that I'm not doing and applying. But there's a difference between then hiring someone like me to then go in and within like the first hour be like, oh, you're not doing this. And then just like, oh, I can do that. I'm like, yeah. Or like, hey, what if you did this? And it's like, okay, I'll go do that. And then have everything completely change all of a sudden. And like in this play button right here on this side, that was one of those
people. Let me do the layout here. Let me give you more of a layout here. Yeah, go ahead.
So this play
love those play buttons, by the way.
For Stone Coat Countertops, they were at it for like 9 years on YouTube, and I made it to 70,000 subscribers of 9 years of work with hundreds and hundreds of videos, right? And that's where they were at. They were stuck there for a little bit, right? And so on the first call with them, like I'm looking at them, they're just like this like small company in Oregon, like a small town in Oregon. I don't even remember what the town is. They had a lot of bears everywhere, like statues of bears, because I went and visited their facility, which was cool. And so like it's the owner, his brother, and his wife. That's who ran the business, right? They're just sitting there with their notepads on the first call, and I'm like, all right, let's do this. We start talking, start going through the audit, and then all of a sudden I'm like, have you guys ever gone live on your channel? And then Mike, who's the owner, he's like, well, I can't go live, man. I'm gonna burn something, and then people are gonna like think I'm a hack. And I'm like, if you burn something live, that'd be amazing. Like, yeah, I'm sure people are gonna love that. And I'm like, you have the personality from like looking at your videos and seeing what you do, and knowing that you have done this for so many years. Like, you can go live and you'll be fantastic at it. Like, I want you to apply sort of this model of doing it like if you were on QVC or the Shop at Home network, for those who know what that is. Like, I want you to like present your product, show how it works, talk to people, engage with them, and then like we'll see what happens. All right. And he's like, oh, I don't want to do it. And I'm just like, I'm like, dude, you paid X amount of money to work with me. Just like do what I'm asking you to do. And
trust the expert.
Yeah, he had to.
That's what I tell clients all the time. They're telling me how. I love the way you said that, Anthony, because they're telling me what they should do, and I'm like, then why did you hire me?
So here's the thing. Mike did it. All right. Mike has like 70 something thousand subscribers at that time, right? They go live. They send out the email to their list. Like we sort of prepare this like live launch strategy. He goes live. That live is amazing. He had about 1,000 people on the live from his customer list.
Wow.
Just excited to watch him.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
Yeah. They stayed on for 2 hours watching him perform, do his thing, showing his product. And they bought the product. And this was like in July. They bought his product, and Mike calls me back, and he's like, he's like, we shattered our Black Friday records.
Wow.
This one day, like in all our company history. And like the very next week, they had surpassed 100,000 subscribers because all those people had started to subscribe. Like the algorithm. So here's the thing: the algorithm is more your friend than it is your enemy. The algorithm started just like pushing that out to people, and they started just getting views and views and views, and sales came in and all that stuff, and they hit their 100,000. Wow. They crossed that threshold. It was amazing.
Wow.
And what's funny is like, and that was just the first tactic that I gave them on that call, because I was like, I was like, we can talk about titles because the titles can be better. We can talk about thumbnails because thumbnails can be way better. We can talk about how he talks too much in the beginning of the video. But I was like, what he needs is to go live because he knows how to engage with his customers. All his reviews talk about how they love him and all this stuff. It's like, so they just want more of him. And that's what, we gave him through that YouTube live experience.
That's great.
And from there on, he kept doing it. And within like 6 months later, he was already at 300,000 subscribers.
Jeez.
And then what's funny is like at when he got to the 600,000 subscriber mark, which is about like 2 years later, it stopped. And then like he calls me back up and he's like, hey, we don't know what's going on, man. Like nothing's working. Like we're doing all this great stuff. Like, and I, like, they were doing everything I taught them. And then I was like, hey, when's the last time you guys went live? And they're like, oh, we stopped doing that a while ago.
Hello.
I was like, you should probably go live again, man.
You should probably go live again. Yeah.
So
if I'm understanding you correctly, Anthony, I love this. So you're saying, I love that you said that the algorithm is more for you than against you. I think a lot of creators actually look at the algorithm as an adversarial kind of relationship. But what if I'm understanding you correctly? Correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying take a look at yourself, take a look at your content. It's probably not as good as you think it is. Yes, title, thumbnail, intro, super important. But you're also saying listen to your audience. What maybe if you're getting all this engagement saying, hey, we love his personality, we love his, and you haven't done a specific format for your channel, that's something to think about. And speaking of formats, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about shorts, right?
Right.
So I'm kind of shocked that nobody's asked this yet, but I'm going to go ahead and ask.
Yeah.
So Anthony, and by the way, I love what you just said. What you just said was, I told these guys, yeah, we can talk about titles. Yeah, we can talk about thumbnails. Yeah, we can talk about your intro, but why haven't you gone live? And you consulted them and told them what to do. They listened and their channel exploded. More importantly, their sales exploded. So I love that advice. I love the lesson that I'm gathering, which is you need to think about what your audience wants you to do if your goal is to accrue as many customers, clients, etc. Anybody can do YouTube for fun. If you're doing it for fun, God bless you. That's fantastic. I think the majority of our audience, especially me, myself, we are in this because we don't want to go back to our 9-to-5s. I don't want to go back to the university. I used to be a university professor. I hated every second of it. I love my students, but the administration, the red tape, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And I couldn't stand anybody telling me how to run my class or telling my students what books to buy, right? So the majority of our audience wants to do this, wants to create content, do something that they're passionate about and make money doing it. So I love that advice. So I have to ask you about shorts. Yeah. And I don't even know where to begin, but I'm going to start here. There was a lot of hype about shorts monetization.
Yeah.
All through the end of Q4 2022, there was a ton of hype. Shorts monetization is coming. Shorts monetization is coming. You're going to be able to make, YouTube's going to share ad revenue with shorts. Everybody was excited. So much hype. Then January, February hits, and we looked at our analytics, and right away we saw bubkus. We saw not a whole lotta, hasta la pasta. But I was one of the first people, I think at least, that said, yo, it's only been, you got to give this some time. I'm not going to look at my analytics until maybe March or April. Well, I did. And shorts revenue monetization, to me, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, I don't think anybody's saying it, was a catastrophe. I mean, there's literally no money to be made through shorts monetization, at least directly through the platform. Indirectly, there's tons of opportunities. But you're the expert, Anthony. What are you telling your clients? What are you doing yourself when it comes to shorts? Is this something that everybody should be doing? Is it something that's only specific to certain niches? Is this something that you should do on a separate channel? Is it even worth it at all? I have to get your take.
Okay.
on YouTube Shorts?
Yeah. I mean, so there was a lot of questions there. So I'll answer some of the rapid fire ones, right? So quickly, create a separate channel for it. No, unless your short content is going to be drastically different, like a different niche, different space, different topic than what you already do on your channel, right? If that's the case, then yeah, go ahead and start a shorts channel if you want, right? But then you're not really monetization is not gonna be a thing. Now, another thing to notice is that, like, I thought it was interesting that people were so hyped about shorts monetization, considering that we already had a case study with TikTok monetization, which was already like terrible. Like, and the way that the TikTok channels were making any money on TikTok wasn't through the whole monetization there. It was mainly through affiliate links and selling their own products, right? Or services. And so that's what was making the money. So when people started looking at, indirectly, yeah. So when people started looking at YouTube Shorts as a monetization game, I was like, no, that's not the right way to look at it. It's more of an audience, like it's more of gain as much attention as you can to a certain audience that really is just browsing, right? So like YouTube Shorts really is more for the browsers than it is for like the people who are like, all right, time to dedicate some time to learning something. It's like, no, like those people search things. They search for things, or they're subscribed to a certain channel that they go to for to meet a certain need or a want, right? And so for me, the strategy with shorts was always going to be like, let's draw as much attention as I can to a general public that might not be interested in what I have to say or into this topic, but somewhere along the way, I will find my audience there, right? Because again, you got to remember, as soon as it launched, the algorithm wasn't that great, so it was like you were just getting put into a sea of everything,
right?
But it was really to start building your library, but also to help you as the creator. Like, to me, like when I coach people to start doing the shorts, I was like, you're gonna go from creating these long form videos to a short form video. That means you're gonna have to learn to be a little more concise while still giving a ton of value, and now present it in a way that's energetic. If you're more of a slow talker, right? Or try not to go too fast, and then like people are like, what did they say? And so it was like, get the practice to create short content, get yourself out there, to create all of this, to get an audience that's sort of in mass. And then from there, we'll start to tweak things that could then drive people to your videos. So to me, the way I look at shorts is still as more of a promotional tool, right? To drive people in with big highlight moments or like big takeaways that are easy to consume. And then if they like how you deliver it, they like what you do, then they're going to be more willing to watch the 3 minutes, the 5 minutes, the 10 minutes, the hour-long video from you. And really, that's sort of
like a sneak peek into my personality, into my brand.
Yeah, and that really you also got to see that on TikTok, because as people, as TikTok sort of opened the doors to be like, oh, you can now do 3-minute TikToks. You can now do 10-minute TikToks, which is crazy. But like, it sort of started getting people used to seeing certain content, seeing certain hosts, seeing certain people, and now they're willing to like stay longer and listen to watch the 3-minute TikTok or watch the 10-minute TikTok. And so that's what shorts to me does on YouTube as well. It helps promote your longer form content. It helps people sort of see who you are rather quickly. And like, again, the algorithm on YouTube has gotten a lot better, where now it can suggest short form and long form to these viewers, which is fantastic. And again, it's searchable and you're being suggested. And again, you can easily promote a short. So
yeah. Big shout out to Roger Wakefield. How you doing, Roger? Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Roger is an amazing, speaking of plumbers, an amazing content creator, business owner. It's good to see you, Roger. I hope you and the family are doing fantastic. Yeah, that's so interesting that you say that, Anthony, because
I sort of want to say something about Roger too, because when I consulted with Roger, one of the things I told him, I was like, dude, like, have you ever heard of Reddit? And Roger's like, what's that? I'm like, there's a community of wild people on Reddit, man, that like talk about plumbing, and why, I don't know, but they love it. And so like Roger then took the strategy of looking through Reddit, seeing what people were talking there, and then creating some amazing content. And what's nice with something like Reddit is that people are already upvoting and voting on the thing that people care about or
Yeah.
feel is important. And
Yeah.
so as soon as Roger created videos around that, he was already sort of weeding out the best stuff. And then Roger is now more of a celebrity than a plumber sometimes.
He is. He absolutely is.
I call him YouTube's plumber.
Yes, he is. Absolutely, 100%. And I can vouch for that too. Like, I have probably gotten, a ton of video ideas from Reddit. And again, what is Reddit? Reddit is the microcosm. Reddit is the manifestation of what the culture of your niche is caring about the most. So what are they caring about the most? What are the problems? What are the questions? I love that. That's a great little secret tip right there.
I would even
Anthony.
say, Reddit's tagline is that they're the front page of the internet.
Love that.
So
that.
if you want to go viral, Reddit sort of shows you, here's what's viral. Talk about it.
I love that. I think what you just said earlier too, Anthony, about shorts are searchable. I think that's going to give a little edge to YouTube Shorts, but it reminded me of this new ban. One of the few, if only states, I think, that banned TikTok is Montana recently. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think TikTok's going to eventually get banned, or is this just a bunch of like political drama?
It's a bunch of political drama, but I guess, I don't think you can ban things like that since we're dealing with like constitutional rights, free speech. So it's like, it falls into that space. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
But even then, let's say TikTok is banned somehow, right? Like, you already have YouTube that's doing short form and is doing
Instagram,
it their way, and all that stuff, right? Like, you already have all these other places to go. That's just go where you can. It doesn't stop.
There's new ones popping up all the time.
Yeah.
There's already a TikTok alternative. I wrote an article about it, Lemonade. There's already, there's a Twitter alternative. Instagram introduced a new Twitter alternative. There's always, that's what's beautiful, right? What is it? Competition, necessity breeds competition, or competition breeds innovation, whatever the saying is. I think it's good for us creators, right? It's good for us business owners, whatever happens. Hey, Anthony, I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've been awesome. It feels like this hour has gone by in like 2 seconds. I wanted to talk about a few myths, and you tell me, or maybe they're not myths, maybe they're facts. Play a little quick game called Myth and Facts. And by the way, if you have any questions for our awesome guest, it's very rare. Look at all those play buttons behind him. He's got gold play buttons, silver play buttons. It's very rare to have somebody who has this much knowledge about YouTube. So if you have any questions, type a big capital Q in front of your comment and then ask your question, and I'll get it to Anthony. But I wanted to just a couple of fun things for me as a creator, and I know a lot of other creators think about these things. And you mentioned SEO a couple of times. So a lot of, I'm not going to mention any names, but a lot of big people in the space have said that SEO is a big kind of myth when it comes to YouTube. You've mentioned it a couple of times. What is your take on search engine optimization for those of you that don't know what we're talking about when it comes to YouTube? A lot of people, even I was in a audio room not that long ago where somebody who actually worked at YouTube said, SEO and keyword optimization has nothing to do with anything, doesn't help the algorithm at all. I want to know, what do you tell clients, Anthony, and what should we as creators? You have so much knowledge. Where's your stance when it comes to SEO on YouTube? We know that 75% of views come from recommendations. TikTok, It's like 95%. Facebook, it's like 89%.
Yeah.
Where do you stand when it comes to SEO?
I mean, there's still data points for YouTube's algorithms and for the viewer. Like if the title or the description or none of those things were important, they wouldn't be there. Like
Love it.
YouTube would get rid of it, right? Like because if we're all basing it off suggested recommendations, then you wouldn't need to read a title. Like it would be on the video itself. Like, and it would just sort of pop up into your feed. And when you search things, it would just pop up a bunch of stuff like, here's the things you want to watch.
Right.
With no titles. Like,
right.
Which,
right.
And you would just be like, oh, okay, cool. Thanks for showing me everything. In a way, I feel like that's sort of, I don't want to go into a whole other conversation, but like sometimes I feel like as people depend on like Chat GPT or AI, sort of eliminating the concept of like I'm just gonna type something in and then just feed me what you want, and I won't really do any research. That's sort of that mindset, which is not a healthy mindset sometimes. It's like always research something.
Yeah.
But yeah, titles are important because titles are still heavily weighed on the SEO front of things. But it's always going to be on where you're at as a creator. At the beginning, it's going to be weighted a lot more than it is later on when you've built an audience that's dedicated to you, and you're already being suggested. It's not going to matter as much.
Right.
But when no one
Plus,
knows you,
I mean, like there's channels that have made their entire living on search. I mean, I think of Levi Lassick, who his whole channel is about moving to Dallas, and he puts SEO at the top. Search is his number one traffic source, and this guy has closed $1 million deals, on YouTube, all organically. I have his book. Let me just give Levi a quick plug real fast because he's such an awesome creator. Passive Prospecting. That's Levi right there. Everybody should go get that. It's a great book. He built an entire business. He built an entire business on search. So I wanted to see where you stood on that, Anthony, and I'm glad you have kind of, really just practically just said, look, why is it there? Why does it even, if it doesn't matter, why is it there? If tags don't matter, if tags aren't important, right? Why do they still have the option to put them in there? Correct?
They evolved to hashtags.
I love that. Yeah. Believe in Yourself says, what's that structure to your left? That's Street Fighter, man.
Street Fighter.
That's like the ultimate arcade game. Okay, another myth. Myth. And by the way, we're seeing a lot of people jump in the chat now. Ask your questions because I don't want to take up too much of Anthony's time. We've already had him for an hour, and I want to respect his time. It's Sunday. He probably has family time like I do. So, Anthony, another myth versus fact. So what are your thoughts on, so we talk about SEO. What are your thoughts on there's only certain niches that can be successful on YouTube that you see people like, and I'll just throw this out as an example. The finance niche has the highest CPMs and the highest RPMs.
Right.
And if you're not doing finance, or if you're not a channel that is in those top RPM, CPM niches, that you can't be successful. What do you say? What are your thoughts on that? That there's only certain niches that can really take advantage of the YouTube algorithm?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one because I don't know if I've heard it, I guess, asked that way. To me, it's like a niche is a niche. A niche is a niche, right? And a niche is a niche. So, like, when you really think about it,
I'm going to sing the Wizard of Oz song right now.
When you really think about that word, like, if you break it down to what it really means, it's really saying like, who's the target and what's the value. So look at it that way, right? Don't just look at it like, what's the community that everybody wants this thing for, or like the algorithm's only going to favor this for, right? It's like, no, like, who's the target and what's the value? Like, if you know who the target audience is and what the value you're going to be able to give to that target audience, that's your niche. Like don't worry about like all these like the subcategories or the main header topics or whatever of like, I'm in the finance space. It's like, well, cool, you're in the finance space, but like, what part of the finance space? Like, honestly, even to this day, most successful channels in whatever space they're in, the reason why they're successful is because they narrow it down to a way that stands out above the rest, right? Like, and to go on with finance again, like you have people who are more of the Dave Ramsey philosophy, right? So we're going to tell you about like saving and never using credit cards, and then you have other people who are, let's say, like the Ramit Sethi space of like no, like, you know, it's more important to start investing right away and start automating your systems than worrying about you know, saving on lattes and whatnot. And so then if you're in the finance space, it's like, well, what's the unique thing that you're going to bring? And in fact, like within that space, I see so many people talk about different things, like when it comes to getting out of debt or investing or whatever. So everyone has their own way of approaching it. Like I've heard people say like, open up multiple checking accounts. And I hear that and I'm just like, that's ridiculous. Right. but they have an audience for those people
Right.
who are like,
Right. They have an angle. Yeah.
like, I love that. I'll do that. Or in the real estate space, right? It's like you have people who talk about short-term rentals, and you have people talking about long-term rentals. You have people talking about Airbnb, wholesaling, you know, buying property this way, that way. Like everyone has their unique angle to do it in. And so then you as the creator or as the entrepreneur and business owner, you need to figure out what's your unique angle, but more than just the unique angle and strengths and all those things that you bring to the table and experiences, it again goes back to like, what's the target and what's the value? And then you could go into like, oh, where like, you know, here's where I make it interesting, or here's where I'm unique, or here's my story, or here's my strength. Like, because you can bring all that, but if you don't have a target and you're not really providing value to that, you know, target audience, then you're just doing stuff.
Right. Right. Which is fine if that's what you're into. But yeah. Let me ask you this. Oh, okay. We got a question from Grow with Angie. I have to get her question out there. Angie says, and by the way, Anthony, if you have to go, just let me know. I don't want to monopolize your time. Let's just take a couple last second questions here.
Yeah.
Angie says, what's a good way to widen your niche? Within the niche, I'm stuck. Indoor gardening. And this summer, I want to implement outside too. It doesn't get as much traction. Should I just keep going and trying? It's a good question.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I'm not gonna feign that I'm, you know, I have a green thumb and I know everything that there is to know about gardening. But I guess sort of some of my follow-up questions there, if you're able to answer in time, it's like, so your niche right now, it seems like you're doing indoor gardening, right? It's a gardening channel, but you're talking about how you're stuck with indoor gardening and you want to go outside. To me, indoor gardening sounds incredible because like rarely have I heard about that. My sister-in-law does indoor gardening because we're in Utah and like it's mostly cold most of the time, right? And so they bought like this weird, crazy display that sits in their living room, and I sort of make fun of them saying like, are you guys growing weed? But no, it's a bunch of like spices and herbs and stuff for salads, and it's really cool. And they, you know, they had a crop, I guess, or whatever, right? They had a yield, and they used it for their salads and for their food and all that stuff, and it's really cool. And it's also because they don't have a place to garden outside, right? So that's the big advantage. So if you're talking about indoor gardening, you got to understand that your audience is mostly going to be people in cities or people where they just don't have a backyard or a front yard or anywhere to garden outside of their house. Or, you know, they are in a place that just doesn't have great weather, right? So I feel like that's where you're gonna, you know, shine within that community. Now, if you want to start talking about the people who are the outside gardeners, like you can, right? But the way you need to do it is to try to help the inside gardeners. This sounds so funny. To help the inside gardeners be like, what I call this a transition video, right? You'll have to create a couple of series of transition videos where you mix in both worlds. So you address your inside gardeners who loved you and have been with you, right? And you're like, hey, you probably have this tower in your living room. You've done all this amazing things. It's been awesome. And it's like, but you know, the weather's getting nice and it's the season to start growing this. Like, I'm going to show you how to create something like that outside. And this is how you do it. And then you talk about that, right? You sort of slowly move them to open, the blinds and the door and go outside into the world. But that's if it's possible for them, right? Maybe if they're in a city, then it's like, all right, is there places in my city or in the different cities that people could be at to grow a community garden, right? Or like, if I have a balcony, can I grow something on that balcony by creating something there? But really, when you're trying to transition between two, like widening the niche, you're going to have to create these transition episodes that sort of blend both worlds and sort of give them pros and cons to try to see, like, do they need to go outside, or are they going to be fine always being inside as inside gardeners? And that's also, do you just want to talk about outside gardening now? If that's the case, then yeah, make the transition episodes and then be like, I'm only talking about gardening outside now.
Kind of easing them through that transition. Is that what you're saying, Anthony?
Yeah. It's like, that's what you're going to end up doing. For some reason, the thought that came to mind is like, what if you had a channel that was all about Ford trucks, and then you all of a sudden had to get them to start buying Chevy trucks? Man, you would have a hard time there. Like, very hard time.
Yeah.
That's like trying to turn,
a Tesla.
Well, let's try to turn like Republicans to Democrats, Democrats to Republicans. You're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, that's not going to be easy.
But that's
good
because
luck with that.
Communities, right? There's like different like things and thoughts and ideas there. But you can always share both of those things to provide insights from both of those worlds, but still always try to remember to cater to the community that you've cultivated, or in your case, grown.
No pun intended. Well, hey, Anthony, I just want to say thank you for your time. I think you've dropped some serious helpful information that's going to really help our audience. And I just want to say how much we appreciate that. I want to give you the floor.
All right.
I want you to kind of take us home and just leave us with one thing that you think every YouTube creator, whether you're a creator, a business, a brand, doesn't matter. What is something that we should all be kind of focusing on as we move forward, as things evolve? I want to give you the floor, and then feel free to tell people where to find you, and then we'll wrap things up. You have the floor, Anthony.
Yeah, I would go, full circle here and go back to talking about story, right? Understand how to imbue story into everything that you discuss when it comes to teaching, a concept or teaching your knowledge that you've gained over the years. In fact, like throughout this interview, you've probably seen that, like, if I talked about a certain principle, there was a story attached to it, whether that's the client's experience or how I had to show someone how to do something. There was a story attached to it, because that's always going to help people resonate and make them, go into those people's shoes and be like, this could be me, and achieving that. And in order to get better at telling stories, just tell stories when you're around people. Like, like actually share experiences, share your days, like do stories on Instagram, like about any little thing that you're excited about, or that you've read somewhere, or that you experienced. In fact, like right now that you guys stayed with us on this interview, you can literally do a story and say like, hey, I just learned some great things from Anthony Ambrose, who's this awesome YouTube strategist. And these were the takeaways I got from it, right? That would be a story that you get to share with people of what you experienced and what you learned, right? And that also promotes me, so it's really cool. But I mean, but yeah, like it's always, to me, like I was always big when it came to like show and tell, and that's how I sort of see a lot of things, especially as we learn and experience things. And the best way to do it is always going to be through a story. Like that's the thing that sort of, lasts, like what is that phrase? The test of time, what lasts, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to
I know what you're saying. Stories have been around since the beginning of civilization. Before there was the internet, before there was even newspapers, how would you find out what was happening? The village 10 miles away is you'd gather around the campfire and tell stories.
Yeah.
So how's
I mean,
Edna doing? How's Tom doing? Did he ever get that? Whatever. Everything is story. So yeah, I mean,
to
it's the one thing that has threaded throughout the ages.
to make it relatable, like you guys see the Street Fighter arcade cabinet there, right? It's like the
I'm so
story.
jealous of that.
The story there is like in back in those days, it's like if you had a system at home like a Nintendo or an Atari or Nintendo or whatever it was at the time, right? Like, you weren't going to be able to beat a game unless that one kid knew the way to do it and you had to go talk to them. Somehow there was always that one kid somewhere that had the code and had the way to do it, and you had to go
Yeah.
friends with them. But then, the reason why I have the Street Fighter arcade is because as a kid, that's what I spent a lot of my money on. Enjoyed playing it, and so it's like a big part of my life growing up. So as an adult, I'm like, I can now buy this.
There you go.
And so why not have it? And plus, when my kids come to my office, they enjoy playing it now. So it's really cool to see that.
Anthony, thank you so much, man. I can't thank you enough for being here. If you want to see Anthony on the show again, give me a hashtag yeah in the comments.
I'd
Where
be
can
happy to
people
come back.
find you, Anthony? If people want to check out your content, if people want to work with you, let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, the easiest way, honestly, is Instagram. You just type in Anthony Ambrose, you'll see it. It'll have my name on there, say YouTube strategist, and just follow me there. Send me messages, and I look at them all, reply to them all. And so yeah, that's the best way. And if you want to, like, I think I have links there too, so you can click on those to like book a discovery call if you want to look into hiring me and help you get unstuck and get to that next level with your YouTube channels and your business. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, Anthony, thank you so much for being here. And we're just so appreciative. We'd love to have you on again. Maybe even when things change again, because YouTube's always evolving, we can have our awesome resident expert on. Big shout out to you, Anthony. I hope you and your family have a wonderful Sunday. And again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys. So, hey, if you enjoyed this show, it would really, really mean the world to me if you could tap that like button, share this out. Podcast listeners, replay viewers, again, leave your comments. I also have a gift for you in the pinned comment and in the description, because what's this channel all about? This is the creator economy. This is ways in which you can monetize your experience, creativity, and skills. I have a free download for you, 28 credible ideas on how you can start making money online, doing what you love, what you're passionate about, and actually providing help and value to the marketplace. Go check that out. I love each and every one of you. Check out these other videos and other podcast episodes. I got a ton of playlists on how to create better content, YouTube, how to grow your YouTube channel. Go check that out. And don't forget to subscribe. I love you all, and I'll see you on the next show.